tur day uyu borom jasna pire soo ko bëggee fii si biir Gambia bi dawal foofu sa quality jasna your number one stop shop. Ana sama jigéen ñi dama bëgg ngeen jox ma seen nopp garme yi ndaxte quality jasna amal nañ leen ay til yu toj daala poos abaya yu yiiw waaye it amal nañ leen ay boreda yu rafet boreda yoo xam ne pour góor ñi la ak pour jigéen ñi amal nañ leen body scrub yi nga xam ne nii dafay defar seen yaram bam nice waaye it fàttewuñ fa diw yi. Ana sama jeeg yu pare yi quality jasna amal nañ leen fa andi cuuraay yu neex house spray ak bépp xeetu baax pour seen biir néeg dama ne atum ren jii ku sa jëkkër mere ku ne yow la neex ndaxte quality jasna ñëw na si dëkk bi pour defar sëy yi. Makeup artist yi bàyyi leen gannaaw ñu ngi leen fa amal ay makeup product yu quality waxu leen léegi nii foofa sa Westfield jàkkaarloog monument bi wala nga jokkoo quality jasna si 250 0124 ak quality jasna taaral sa bopp taaral sa néeg waaye bégal sa alaaji aas.
Guys, yeah, so I hope you all are fine. So as agreed by management and of course Mr. Diouf, that you'll be having experts or guests that will be coming in to take you through with regards to some of the journalistic terms and some of the journalistic things that we are doing in terms of how you're going to do your reporting and everything as a journalist to equip yourself. So few weeks ago, we have Keksane, who was here to take you guys through with regards to court reporting. Today, I know Flex is not, a stranger to some of you. You guys might have seen him around from all media houses. Flex is an expert in terms of reporting on victims, especially those that are human rights victims. So Flex will be taking you through on reporting on how to report on victims. You all know the TRRC, right? Some of the human rights violations that went or happened during Jammeh's regime. Flex has a handful of some of those things. So he will be taking you guys through with regards to how you're going to report in terms of whoever is a victim of human rights violations or in fact even sexual violations as well. So these are all violations that individuals go through. It's not only women, of course, even men as well. So you will know some of the things that you need as a journalist in terms of reporting this. So I'll urge you all to take this moment to get what you want as a journalist. You all are trying, yes, but then you need experts coming in to actually take you guys through in terms of some of the things that you need to equip yourself. So I would just allow Flex to say a little bit of what he is, what he does, some of the things and his journey as a journalist as well. So before he will take you guys through with regards to today's lessons. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to greet all of you and thank you so much for welcoming me. This is not the first time, like you said. I've come here, I've had shows here. I remember when I just returned home, Gambian Talents had me on the Semester Avenue, and I kept telling them, I'm not a semester, you will see how long I'm here for. And so I came back to the Gambia 2018. I was doing my work, similarly like Paus, as a journalist in the diaspora. But I'm a civil engineer first. But around 2015 is when I decided to go full-blown on journalism, even though I was working as a civil engineer at the same time in 2015 until 2018 when I returned back home. So that's the span of my experience. I'm the editor for Gainako Online News. Some of you will know I'm also the spokesperson for Gomso Bopa. So you will see that sometimes I wear two hats. And I'm going to make it very clear. There is somewhere where journalism stops and activism starts. And with me, I am like in between the both of them. Okay, so I will be trying to make sure that I'll focus on the journalism side But then when I come to one area where I know myself that I am going beyond being a journalist and into an activist, I'll clearly make sure you are aware. That's not a choice. That's a choice which every journalist has to make. Yeah? It's up to you to be an activist. And as a journalist and an activist, you must be very clear to know where one stops and one ends. Okay? Now, if you go and train, they will tell you, the contemporary people, those who have been in media for like newspaper and all of that, they will tell you you should not, be an activist. A journalist isn't an activist. But then you will have those who are in the new school of thought, which I believe I am in, that, it's about the principles of what you are advocating for. For example, press freedom. You can say press freedom. Look at what happened to one of your boss and some of your staff. So are you going to say, I'm a journalist, I'm going to be neutral? So sometimes we are thrown into these points. Sometimes as a journalist, you have to make a choice. And just like you, that choice will be thrown to you. Now, it's up to you again to decide whether, you know what, I'm just a journalist. I'm not going to go into activism. And that is well within your right. So I wanted to caveat my opening with this statement so that you can be very much aware that there is a clear line where it does stop. But you will be put into instances where you must make a decision. Yeah? Do I want to stop in just the journalism side? And there's nothing wrong with that. No, you are not a coward if you decide to do so. Yeah? Or it just means that that is your preference. Okay? So I'll go into the discussion. I have some slides which I'm happy to share with you later on. Does anybody know what gynaco means? Huh? Yes. Give me a try.
Cattle rear.
Yes, cattle herder, indeed. That's the gynaco, samakat. Aha. So the media I run with is gynaco. It's a fuller language. Our motto is called guardianship and independence. That means we stand for the people, just like the cattle herder. He has a stick, and the cattle are following him. Yeah? So, but for him to guide, guardianship and independence, for him to guide the cattle, he needs to be independent, or else he's not actually guiding the cattle. If, for example, somebody with some interest has the cattle herder in their hand, then where is he guarding the cattle to? So that is our motto. That's what we stand for as gynaco. And it's important to know what your media house stands for so that whatever you are doing, it can be in that line. So I'm going to throw you onto some of the do's and don'ts and some of the things, if you are going to go in practicing and reporting about victims of human rights violations, some of the things you must be aware of. Some of the things that you are compelled to do as a journalist in this country. I'm sure some of you will be very familiar with this. I hope you do have some of it in your training. Every one of you should be able to get an electronic copy. I have an electronic copy. I can send it to you and you can share it with your team. So this is the Charnajala Code of Conduct, and it guides us as journalists. What are the do's and the don'ts? What can we do? What can we not do? Yeah. So, and it highlights a number of things when it comes to human rights. It touches on those things that relate, and I'm just going to highlight those things. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the rules because I have examples that I want to show you of the publications, what you can do, how you can do it, and that kind of stuff. Public interest and social responsibility. You see? So if you read the Code of Conduct, it places responsibility on us as journalists to put the public interest first. What that is telling me, if I see a crowd of people, their rights are being violated, you as a journalist, you walk past it and you don't report it, you have failed. Where is public interest? Where is your social responsibility? So the Code of Conduct is actually instructing you to behave in a particular manner. You must be a person of conscience. You must be a person who is in line with the people to know their feelings, because you talk to them all the time. And how can you do that? You must promote and protect public health and safety. Respect the law. But if you don't know the law, as a journalist, you don't read the Constitution, how will you even do that? So, you are reporting on a story of human rights violation. What is the violation? You can only get that in the law. Yeah? Where have they violated the person's rights? They are people of human rights violations. When we say victims, this is what we mean. You cannot be a victim if your right has not been, trampled upon. And that right is enshrined in the Constitution. Different countries you go to have different, laws. So, respect the law. This is a very good one because for you to know and respect the law, for you to respect the law, you must know the law. For you to even come to the point to say that somebody's right has been violated, you must know the law. Where are you quoting from? What rights has been violated? So I will not continue with this. The rest of it is very clear to see, and they kind of all relate, right? Another point, and that is the first point in you open up the code of conduct, that's the number one point you meet there. Yeah, and it relates to human rights. Yeah. So the other areas in the GPU code of conduct, which I think you must consider, minimize harm. Yeah, in whatever you are doing, in your reporting, know that there are two sides to a story. Yeah, fine. Let me pick on somebody that I know. You violated her rights. She came to me and reported you to me, that you violated her rights. I just go and I try and I report. You violated the principle of minimize harm, or the principle of even seeking the perspective of the person. If you called her, she refused to answer, fine. So there are instances for you to comply with the code of conduct, minimize harm. There are a number of points which is highlighting. You see, first, don't be sensational. Yeah, I know it helps us to sell our news. Yeah, but different news outlets will have a view. What is sensationalism? If your headline and your story are in unison, there's no sensationalism in there. Yes, you are well within your rights to play around, to sell your story. But if your headline, for example, is a very hot headline, and then you read it inside and you find that there's nothing there, it's sensationalism. Yeah. Also, like I said, two parts. Compassion is not just for the victim. Compassion also even for the alleged offender. And they are alleged until exactly. If you see them doing the violation, you can report, I saw it. This is what I saw. You don't even need to, in my perspective, you don't need to say alleged. Because sometimes we overuse this alleged, and then it's like people start to wonder, so, okay, are these just allegations then? Then nothing is confirmed. But if you witness it yourself, and you have inquired with a number of people and they have corroborated, corroboration is your big tool. All right? Because instances happen. Somebody's rights has been violated. They come to you and report. Fine. You cannot get in touch with the other person. Yes? And there are instances, there are scenarios where going to the other person can even be a risk to your life. And I'll bring examples of those. If it is a risk to your life, you should not go and put your life in a risky situation. Why? When you know that this officer, if you go and you challenge him to say, hey, Mr. Officer, well, this is what I had about what you did. And the officer says, and starts to abuse you or says some foul words, just go. They've already given you their statement. But corroboration can come. Somebody else who was a witness that witnessed it, if they testify unto you and corroborate that what this person has said is true, yeah, obviously you are interested now, what is their relationship? Okay? Because if it's the brother of the victim or the family member of the victim, most likely, or the friend, close friend of the victim, they are going to say what the victim is saying. All right? But It's just for you to understand. And this is part of the do no harm principle. Yeah, it's about showing compassion. You have to put yourself, even as harsh as it might sound, you have to put yourself in the victim's shoes. You have to put yourself in the perpetrator's shoes also. Huh? So, and that calls for being a sensitive person, being able to, know how empathize with the different stakeholders in that report that you are going to publish. Fine. So some more other areas, gender and sex. If you are looking at SGBV stories, make sure you are aware of this so that you will not violate some of the regulations, some of the things to do, some of the things not to do. And it's very, very important. I revise this every now and then just to get a clear understanding, especially if a story is on SGBV. And look at how short this is. If you read this within 5 minutes, it's done. 5 minutes is all it takes. It doesn't take a lot to read this. The Code of Conduct is not a big book. It's a very tiny, small book. So before, I used to have it in my bag. But now I have an electronic copy, so it's always in my phone. Yeah? Keep it with you. It's very important. And then children, when you're reporting on violations of the rights of children, there are even more stringent requirements here because of, children are more vulnerable. Their identity must be protected, and numerous other things. I have reported a story when the child had to be shown. Why? This was the story of a child who had gone missing. If I don't put the picture of the child, say the name of the child, the parents, the family, to contact if you find the child, what's the point of writing the story of a missing child? So everything is not clear-cut, okay? But thank God, after I published that story, within 24 hours, that child was found. And you now, as a journalist, must not leave that story. You must write another story to say that the child has been found, so and so, thank the public or whatever, your job is done. Sometimes this is what we don't do. So when they go back to your record, they will just see that a child went missing. You see what I mean? Huh? So follow the story. Follow the story. Huh? Children are more vulnerable. I don't know any other instance where I would actually be allowed to show the child's picture. Get permission from the parent. And I did so. Even though it was obvious what they wanted me to do. All right? Which was to put an alert out there. And thankfully, that child was found inside a ditch. They took that child to the police. And they were reunited with their parents. So those things are very important. Court and crimes. If a story is being reported or if a story is in court, you need to be very careful. Sometimes they bring you into a human rights violation and you are not asking all the questions. You don't even know whether that story is in court. And you go and you report. My friend, they can come for you there. So just cover yourself. Yeah, that's why it's always good to read the Code of Conduct. It's not a very big, and it's not every single section you must read. But if you know, okay, I'm going to write about a story on a human rights violation, you have my presentation. Hopefully they will have sent it to you. Browse through it. Within 5 minutes, you have the sections that you need to know and the things that you need to be aware of. And particular instances or election even or whatever, but we're not talking about elections since it's about victims. They are all in the Code of Conduct. So it helps you to make sure that you are not going out of your Code of Conduct. And then, guess what? People get a lot of respect for you because they know that this guy is ethical. He's doing what he is supposed to do in the right way. If I challenge him now, he will start coding Code of Conduct to me. Telling him this is what is guiding his, his conduct, okay? So that's the Code of Conduct. So now I wanted to use some examples so that you can see exactly some of the samples of the story. So I have case studies here, which I'll be showing you some of the stories. So if you go on Gynaco, which I'm the editor for, we have revamped our news medium at the beginning of the year. We have sort of upgraded it to have a human rights section. And this human rights section, you can see all our human rights stories are there. Your boss is there, and we'll definitely get to that point. Okay, so at Gainako, for us, human rights is a non-negotiable. Yeah, and of paramount importance. Nothing is more important than human rights. You cannot violate people's human rights and say that, you know, basically X or Y. It's not an excuse. As long as it's violated, we will report it if we get the information. So that's why our reporters are not just reporters of human rights violations. They try to go the extra mile, right? And you don't have to, but this is just my personal opinion. Gambia, we can continue to write lots of stories and then nothing comes out of it. The public will not even eventually report those stories to us. So I think it's very important. The case study. If you have a question, please feel free to interject. I want this to be, interactive, So, or else I feel like I'm in class and I'm boring you. All right? Okay. So the first thing, how do you receive a complaint? How do you report it? You see? So for us, Gainako, we get lots of complaints. People send lots of complaints to us, but it's not all the complaints that we deal with. Sometimes we can share you some contact. For example, just yesterday, somebody contacted me, informed me that there are some children who might be abused, and you start asking them, were they caught on the act? What evidence was there, etc. So they did not have that much evidence. I end up passing them on to the National Human Rights Commission, so that the National Human Rights Commission will assist. I could have gone to the police, but I know with those kind of issues, SGBV and sometimes child abuse, police don't take it so seriously. But I know when NHRC is involved, police will take it seriously straight away. And currently they're investigating that case. Apparently that is a white person, a Tubab, apparently. Not trying to be xenophobic, but this is just the information I received. Said it's a Tubab, and the Tubab has been apparently arrested. They are going through his computer, and apparently they found some images in there. So by the evening, I will follow up. That was yesterday, and today this was the information I had. But I'm not reporting about that today, am I? So not everything you must report. Huh? So sometimes you need to know what you are going to report, and even because sometimes the livelihood of that person is even more important than just your story. You understand? You can always get your story sometimes. Huh? Verify the complaint that you received. Who is it coming from? Who is reporting it? Is it the complainant himself? Is it somebody who witnessed it? Corroborate. Get another person, a witness who saw it, to talk. Speak to the perpetrator. Now, I reported the story of Gurgimbub allegedly assaulting this Ibrahim Asane, one young man. He took a hoe, he took a hoe and hit this guy in his abdomen, in his groin, Sisulambi. So, and the guy was pissing blood, which was a very serious situation. You can see he sat on the bed. He's the one on the left, all right? And that's Gurgimbub on the right. So the first day I reported the story, I couldn't get to Gurgimbub because one, I'm not going to lie, I'm human. I'm thinking of the risk also to go to Gurgimbub. Yeah? So, but then I got corroboration from numerous other witnesses. So, and they were all saying the same thing. So I had normally if you have about 3 corroborators, you are good to go. Because it's not just one person's perspective. So I first published a story before this. Police, the next day, police wrote that my story was false. Yeah? So that's police. They're like challenging me in a way, in my view. So what did I do? I walked into anti-crime unit. I walked in there. I sat down with Gurgimbub. That's when I published face-to-face with Gurgimbub, because I came to question him. But I didn't just walk in like that. I had a lawyer walk in with me. Yeah, they denied the lawyer access there. Yeah, Gorgimboop, obviously, if I'm talking to Gorgimboop, they didn't allow me to write or even to go in with my phone. So at the entrance, I was going in with a lawyer. They stopped the lawyer. Then all my things stopped, my mobile phone taken, put aside. So I'm not holding anything to record. Yeah? So now, what do I do? Huh? Gorgimboop can turn around and deny that he said X or Y. You see? But what did I do? I went ahead because I know that as long as I've come in with a lawyer, it's very rare that they are going to arrest, keep me there, beat me up, something crazy, because a lawyer came with me, even though they stopped the lawyer from outside. On my mobile phone, my location tracker, WhatsApp, has location. Send location. Send it to your boss. Yeah? Even though they will keep your phone away from you. Yeah? But your phone, what can your boss do? Your boss can come and say, the last location I received from this guy or this reporter is here. Their mobile phone must be here. You understand? And they will have a proof and an evidence on their phone. Yeah? So those are the steps and the precautions that I took. So what am I saying? No story is worth your life. Yeah? So, but here I was. Police was challenging me. I had my integrity on the line. They say Gainako is giving false publication. Now, how do I respond? So these are the precautions I took. I walked in, sat down with Gorgimboop. I was surrounded by police officers. But I already knew some of them. So I took them by surprise. They were surprised. It was COVID period. I had a cap on and I had a mask on. So they probably didn't even know who I was. You see? So I came. Go, that's how they call him. Know your people very well. I didn't call him Gorgimboop. He would have said, who is this guy? But when I said go, I called him by the name that others call him. Huh? He was like, ki hamnama. And there was another guy sat there right next to him. Koku tamin hamna turam. Na Job Latuda or something like that. I called him by that name, that the way people call him. Yeah, and that guy is actually his right-hand man of Gorgimboop. He's the one who does a lot of things you have in Mununko report. I was sat between these two terrible people, questioning him, pushing him. Did you hit this guy with the hoe in his testicles? He will deny. Said, but he was pissing blood. Is it not true that this guy was pissing blood here? Yes, I've done 7 deret. Anga boy then dem tedi ak alta yi ñoo xam fan la jaar krip karab. That's what you said. Fine. I'll put it there. So I got as much information that I could. Just from reading the story, you know that immediately this guy is the mom ñepa xam num def. One, prisoners or people in your care as an officer, you cannot put them on hard labor. Huh? You have to go through court, found guilty, and then placed on hard labor. They jail you and they place you on hard labor. So already he has agreed that he sent these people out to do gardening. That means that ngos ayo non ye bokanensi. Ndadu. But pare nanguna ne seben na deret. He didn't deny that he did not piss blood, but he is claiming that this guy went and slept with some ladies. But somebody who you arrested in the middle of the night. Huh? Whilst at the nightclub, they just came out there. They hadn't even gone out there yet to sit down. He hadn't had a chance. It's not like it's after he had a night with a lady or whoever that he was arrested. This was before. So the evidence speaks for itself. You just try and get the other side. It can be very dangerous, yeah? But don't risk it. Take precautions. And if you don't feel safe to go there, get corroborative evidence and leave it as that. So I published it, and the matter, I reported it to the National Human Rights Commission. Again, they are very important. They have a complaints procedure. And thank God, this was a groundbreaking case because the National Human Rights Commission was compelled. I forced the National Human Rights Commission. How? I told them, before I went in, I spoke to NHRC as well, as another precaution. And I told them, you NHRC, you people have the power to walk into every police station at any moment and ask questions and demand that these people give you information. Me, powerless journalist, I'm the one now walking into into anti-crime. So, in a way, you shame them into action. Shame them into action if they have to. They must know what their responsibility is. They cannot disappoint the Gambian people. And they are being paid. Unlike a poor journalist like me, I'm just driven out of passion. So I forced them, they did an investigation, and this was the first case where a victim of human rights violation was actually paid compensation in the country. So that was one good thing that we managed to get. Another case where a victim also received compensation, Shifai. He was also attacked, and most of these cases, I followed them for over 6 months before you actually come to a conclusion. Now, Shifai, this is also part of going beyond. So now, it's very important. You can report the story of the victim, get the other side if they give you, that's what you can do, and help them with the NHRC. Show them, direct them to the NHRC to report their complaint, and you can leave it there. That's where your job actually stops. As a journalist, yeah? You can do follow-ups. Where is NHRC with the complaints? You see? You can do follow-ups, but now you are really moving into the realm of activism and advocacy, okay? But that is how you get all the way to the end where you get compensation. If I wasn't an advocate, I wouldn't get compensation for these victims. So Sifai was also another victim. Yeah? What happened to him? Police, it was a case of mistaken identity. He has dreadlocks. So police actually jumped him. About some 6 police officers fell on him, beat him up seriously until his hand was on a, you know, you can see from the picture, he had a purple thing. So unfortunately, we reported the story. It went viral. And then I took him to the National Human Rights Commission. He lodged a complaint. And some of these victims, sometimes they don't even know how to lodge the complaint. They're not maybe that willing to write, or they're not writers and stuff like that. So sometimes that also, now, if you are going to help them with their complaint to write it, you're actually being an advocate. Yeah, so that is advocacy work. Remember at the beginning, I wanted you to know very clearly where your work as a journalist stops, where now you, as an advocate, now you are being an advocate. Now you are being an activist, you are supporting people. People like to use the word activist. For me, activist, advocate is all the same. Yeah, if you are a proper activist, you must be an advocate, but you must understand the issue. Just that advocate is more seen as somebody who is much more, is not an activist. Activist is termed as like a dirty word, if you can say, huh? But it's still the same, no matter, it's just playing with words. The issue here, once you start picking up the pen to help write the victim's complaint, and making sure that they are getting everything on board, right? Normally, that actually is not your job as a journalist. I want you to fully understand that. Yeah? Your job as a journalist stops at showing this is the form, you can fill it and submit it. Here is who you submit it to. Yeah? But I don't believe that Africa needs those kind of journalists. Africa, yeah, needs journalists who are going to be courageous. Yes, this is what I believe we need. But everybody has a different belief, all right? Some people believe that, no, journalists cannot play those kind of roles. So you can, if you feel that's the case, you can talk to other civil society organizations. Like my organization, Gomsa Bopa, that I work with, I'm the spokesperson of, they will take it up. Or others who you know are, you know, journalists or activists like the Madi Jobates, you know what I mean? They will take it up and they will see how to assist. So this was the second case where a victim that I reported their story first, helped them to go to the NHRC with their complaints, followed the NHRC. After a few months, you'll give NHRC 1-2 months, nothing happens. Come back to them. Where are you guys? Take the victim in there. Eventually, he was paid compensation. And the officers were allegedly, and I'll use alleged because I did not see, but they said they were disciplined. The officers who abused the gentleman apparently were disciplined. Yeah? So if you read the story, you will find more information on there. And then the third case study that I want to highlight and maybe spend a little bit more time on with you is the trending story that I published last week about the AKI victims. I've been reporting the stories, this issue, following it for over a year now, almost a year now, thereabouts. And now my last story, which went in the newspapers, went out in different medium outlets, was this one, the $285 million lawsuit in damages. AKI parents are suing government. But the only reason why I was privileged to be given the information is the lawyers who were filing this. They've seen my commitment in reporting this story, in following this story. So, and that is how you get people to recognize you, people to pick you out and send you the information that they will not send to others. Out, and they also publish it. You will see the story was on Foroya. I think it was on some few other newspapers as well. Okay? So you must follow the issue consistently. That way you build recognition. That recognition is a door to exclusive content. That recognition is how people will recognize you and say, that's the guy I want to write the story. See? So when you get that reputation, you end up getting so many stories sometimes that you cannot report all of them. You have to now prioritize the stories which you can report because you're just one person or you have a small team. On Gynaco, we have a very small team, all right? So engage the various stakeholders and continue to know which of the stakeholders can affect this outcome the most, yeah, and continue to follow them, all right? We'll move on to, this is AKI, we're still on AKI. So the first story I published, sometimes you get information in a report. So the first story that I reported, was actually from a report from Ministry of Health. And this is sometimes our problem. We don't read, even though we are journalists. We don't read. Some information is sent to us. We don't read fully. The day that I saw this, I can remember fully, almost every journalist in GPU saw this report. But not every one of them read it and wrote a story. A journalist must love reading. Sometimes just from a report, you can have a very hot story. This was the first story I wrote on the AKI. And you know what the government knows? You know what people in government know? They know that you don't read. They know. They know that if I write all the truth, and I put it in a report, and I send it to journalists, there's a way they will put the truth. The truth will be at the last. It will be bombshell. Bombshell be. Last card arrest. Si gana si anga si en bi la de nek. Ndadu dega. Kana arrest si digi gew bi. Ken? So they know that and they will put it in that report. Xam ngeen ne ku read affaire si be dem be si bi aga si ali kalañ bi dina ko xam. Wante xam ngeen ne yow ak man dundé read. And when journalists don't read, the country we are in trouble. Because people are not reading. This same report was in the GPU group chat. Same report, everybody had it at the same time. I wrote the story. I can't remember how many journalists wrote the story. As soon as I saw the report, I read it and I went through and I said, what? No way, no. This is very serious. You mean to tell me 28 children out of 35 have died in this country? No. That's my headline. That's my headline. The story went out viral. Quick. Everybody was interested in the story. First blowing of the whistle of the AKI. Yeah? That's how we followed it. We followed the issue all the way through cabinet level parliament level, and even the victims, of course, you know, and now we have a very close rapport with the victims. I have a very close open door with the victims. If I want to know anything, they will give me access. If I am going on a radio station, even if I come to Gambian Talents, for example, me being there, straight away, I can just call a victim just before coming and say, ngay duga fini de li ak li lañu waxtaan so ko mën nga ko déglu bo xamné so bëggé wax dara mën nga call nga bokk ci wax. I do that quite often. So that's why sometimes if you hear me on the radio, people will be surprised. Some people might think that, how do I know so and so? It's not that I know everything. I'm just talking to the stakeholders. I'm just talking to the people who are affected. I'm talking to all the stakeholders. That's the only reason why. And I'm maintaining that relationship. So you must try to also maintain that. It brings you credibility. Even if I say something on AKI, if somebody comes and counters me, yeah? Sometimes I don't even have to say a word because the victims themselves will come and say and speak. Because I'm not speaking just from my perspective, and avoid just doing that. You know, speak from the uninformed position. That's the best way you can speak and cover yourself. Okay? Because if you are saying the truth about something that happened, a victim violation, and somebody comes and counters you, and that happens. It happens there. Yeah? And that happens. That's one of the hardest things. Like, how do you deal with it? Sometimes you are obliged, you want to respond. No, you don't reply to everybody. And so it's not. This affair back my conscience is clear. The victim will come and, in fact, sometimes they speak on your behalf. All right? So when we say follow the issue at cabinet level, follow the issue at even the international and sub-regional level. Yeah? So at parliament, they were reporting, following this AKI for quite a while. And some of the victims, if you talk to them, they are very, very annoyed that, unfortunately, what ended up happening, the acting speaker, Sirin Jai, he stopped the health minister from reporting on the latest AKI deaths. You see, so we had to report. Sometimes you can get some very interesting angles if you know, if you are following the issue, if you are on top of the issue, and continue to sell that right about the story. Don't let it go cold. Every month, at least one or every few months, you know, make sure you publish something about it. Don't just publish nothing. Go ahead.
Why do you think Honorable Sidinia asked the health minister to stop giving reports of events?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one. Well, you see, the issue is if you understand how Parliament is set up, Honorable Sidinja is a nominated member, and his boss is the president. And obviously the president has his cabinet. So when he goes there, whose interest is he safeguarding? Elected parliamentarians probably have less that opportunity because they have been elected. So they perhaps mostly follow the interest of their electorates. But that's not the case with nominated members most of the time, you see. So I would argue that perhaps it's because he is and safeguarding the interests of those who placed him in parliament, which is the executive, the president, and by extension, his cabinet. So I think that's one of the challenges we have of parliament, okay? The way parliament is set up, 5 nominated members. But yeah, that I believe is the reason why, and the victims were certainly not happy with it. They were very annoyed. And some of the parliamentarians, of course, they were not happy because of their question was being stopped. So they were effectively being stopped from doing their work. But for me, it presented a very interesting story. Yeah? And sometimes you avoid putting your opinions too much, but just use the facts and stuff like that in your story. All right? So I hope I answered your question. Yes. Okay. So another way to follow the story is also at the international and sub-regional level, if required. AKI, for example, is an international concern. I don't know if you guys are aware. The international media is reporting about this. And sometimes, like I say, that credibility can build you. I had the opportunity to be a part writer, one of the authors of an international publication for UK Telegraph. I reported from Gambia. Some other journalists reported from India, another journalist from Uzbekistan, and all our names are on the byline of that publication. It's an investigation, international investigation on AKI. So I haven't showed that up here. Actually, I should have, but I published that. I didn't actually publish. UK Telegraph published it. So I was contracted as an investigator in the Gambia here and work with that. So, but a lot of the stories which I did are free. I don't get paid for it. I'm the editor, remember. So it's not like I write and pay myself. Okay? So, but then that reputation also builds you other things. You see, so you can get a lot of things. Sometimes you may think that, you're not getting anything out of it, but with Gum Gum, Buga Sadika, I don't know how else, I think I need to say in Wolof sometimes, it's very important and it has its benefits. Yeah, the reputation, the integrity you can get from that is huge. So actually, I wrote a story. Sometimes short stories are very, very interesting and keep it going. Last week, I was on a TV program on Joy News, and they invited me in Ghana media. So I was talking about AKI. And then soon after my interview, they highlighted that they were, Joy News, Ghana, was in touch with the Ministry of Health. And he had said that they are going to release a statement. That was last week, Wednesday. He said that they will release a statement soon, so he doesn't want to preempt it. So now you as a journalist, and I was invited on that platform, and this is what they said that our Minister of Health is saying. So most Gambians are not aware of that. Yeah? You have a responsibility to keep the story going. So 1 week later, counted it exactly, 7 days later, I published this story. Boom. My bomb last card arrest. Yeah. So that is what? To say, Health Ministry mute over AKI after promising to release statement. They promised to release a statement last week. So what is soon? When the minister says soon, we will be releasing a statement, what does he mean? So you see, follow it. Not just at the national level, National Assembly. Our job is plenty. We have a lot of work. So, but you can follow the story to wherever it takes you. And make sure you know all the stakeholders that are involved. Yeah, so that's very important. And that is some of that's the third example case study, which I am working on actively right now. And I will urge all of you to please show a little bit of interest in it, in the AKI issue. I think there's a lot of stuff that we can do there, which is very important. You can collaborate as well. So, yeah. So I will now, I'm in the last few stages. So working with civil society organizations is also a very big bonus in your work. Why? These CSOs have built up a connection with a lot of the communities. Yeah? Well, you need to know which and for what you are going for. If it's SGBV, there are organizations, WAVE and Fantanka, Will. There are many others. I'm just naming some. And these are some of those who I actually work with. I work with them. I go to them. And I get to learn because they put me direct into the communities. Where, for example, you as the journalist would have had to go and organize maybe a lot of victims. But why are you stressing yourself? When CSOs are busy organizing these victims to come to meetings. So if you are in touch with these CSOs, you can find out when next are you going to bring these victims together. And fine, if you are going to bring those victims together, invite me. I will come. Please, can I talk to them? And guess what? You can have one story. You just go to one place. I'm not saying go to five different whole them funeka. No, you just go to one place. Yeah? And sometimes you just have to stay there and listen. And they are telling you all. They are speaking. You understand? Yeah? So it's very, very easy to get stories if you know how, if you know where to go to. Yeah? Civil society, I see a lot of women here. Talk to these gender organizations. Yeah, you can get SGBV stories. You can get numerous angles. And sometimes these people, the more you work with them, they might even have some funding for some of their work. And you never know. you could benefit from that too. Yeah. So, in particular, there are some communities. For example, I'll give you one example so that you can see how this has worked for me. Kermot Ali. Anybody knows where is Kermot Ali? Yeah? It's far. Aha, Sorina. Yeah? And even there are some Gambians that are deported just in that area. I was privileged to be part of those with WAVE. And even the government, Office of National Security, numerous other institutions were there. We went across the border and met people from Kermot Ali, Senegal, Kermot Ali, Gambia. So there are Gambians who have been deported. Are you aware of that? Gambians have been deported from their own country. They cannot even come back until now. They have taken up their properties. They are in exile, squatting next door. Are you aware? Fine. The only way I could have been in that situation and report this story, yeah, was because of working with civil society. They were going, and they took me along. And then I reported. I saw Gambians firsthand. Nobody will tell me. I saw it myself. I saw our own brothers and sisters deported across the border. They can see their property, and they can see those from where they are standing. Send farmies, send tollies, their properties, and they can see that other people are there. But many people will tell you Gambia nice. Gambia no problem. You know the issues which we have on the underreported stories. Yeah? You will know how important it is as a journalist to report these stories, which is very important. And one of the ways we can do it much easier is collaborating with civil society organizations. So some of the organizations are our highlight: Will, Wave, Fantanka. There are more gender, SGBV, reproductive health, Aneket, enforced disappearances. Now, if any of you decides to go into that one, that one is investigative journalism. Enforced disappearances. These are people who have been made to disappear. Can anybody tell me of one enforced disappearance which relates to us as journalists? Deda Haidara, yes. Chief Ibrahim Mane, yes, journalist. So Basiru Barrow and all those guys, they are not journalists, but they are civilians. They are enforced disappearance. You can still write about them. That's a good one. Yeah. So, yes, I think Haruna Jatta, was he not shot here during that? He was still alive. He was not a case of enforced disappearance. He was killed. Not the recent one. Okay, another one. Fine. Ah, yes, you see. So people who have been made to disappear, trust me, you and I don't have the capacity to track those people. Because these are people who, they made them to disappear a long time ago. So to pick up those pieces, it's very difficult. But if... Yes, the two Gambian brothers, the Americans, Gambian Americans. I know about them. In fact, for a very long time, we were following and chasing them whilst I was in the diaspora. I had Gambians here in the country, going inside mile 2. Back then, before Jammeh went, when I was abroad, I had Gambians inside the country, going into mile 2 to see if they could find them there. Unfortunately, they were not found. So, but there's a lot of work. So to find people who are enforced disappearance, these are specialized areas. You have to go and talk to Aneket. You have to sit down, read the documentation in the TRRC that covers enforced disappearance. Understand that section. Then you go and you see Aneket. Then you go and you see the family members. Even after all of those, you will come up with almost nothing new. Yeah? But at least if you put all those pieces together, I'm sure, and you spend enough time, you will be able to find something that, an angle or something that people were not looking at. You see? So specialized areas, sometimes civil society organizations can help you. Obviously, I am, as I said, the spokesperson of Gomso Bopa. You will hear us making a lot of noise about Dafadoy, Nawek, electricity, and all those things. And even victims of human rights violations, we sometimes advocate for them. Victim center. Victim center, you can't go wrong there. Yeah, so victim center is very important, obviously, when it comes to, if you are looking at the TRRC, yeah, if you are looking at victims of human rights violations, you need to talk to them because of that victim might be registered, especially if that victim is registered to the victim center. Yeah, and also the story, if you're looking for, if you need a response from a victim leader who can give you not just the perspective of one victim, but the perspective of victims in general, is victim center you will need to go to. All right? And here you see we publish some of the stories that Victim Center has published. So now we are at the last slides. Media solidarity on human rights violations and press freedom. Journalists ourselves were also sometimes victims of human rights violations, as some of you will very well know. In this office, some of your boss was a victim, and I'm sure you've had other victims as well here, Gambian talents. So I was arrested myself. So, and then what happened? Gambia Press Union issued a statement, Committee to Protect Journalists, they issued a statement after I was arrested. And this was publicized internationally and within the Gambian news. But it's important because of every year there is a press freedom ranking. If Gambians are being arrested, their rights are being violated, journalists, sorry, members of the press, yeah, their rights are being violated. And they say our press freedom index is, we are doing better and better and better. Does it make sense? Exactly. So, but you know why? They will never say that the ranking is going down because you and I have not written about that. How many of us, when the press freedom index comes out, say, wow, this is very good, but however, on the contrary, for example, Gambian talents, journalists, you must write about that. Fine, this is what the press freedom index is saying. Wow, we are very happy that at least, yeah, the press freedom index is, we are improving. But it is not because the executive is opening up the space. Huh? Well, yes, there is access to information. That is not the executive. Perhaps you could say is, obviously the executive had to table the bill, yeah, but parliament have to approve it. Yeah, so that was passed. But where did it come from? Gambia Press Union, actually. If you go far into it, Gambia Press Union and stakeholders drafted most of that bill. They had lawyers who drafted the ATI bill, because I've been following it very closely. They handed it over to the MOJ. MOJ now took ownership of it and tabled it. So this ATI bill that they will be making noise about, that is one of the reasons why Press Freedom Index is going up. We have a new law that protects us, blah, blah, blah. Interrogate it. How many journalists have been arrested since Barrow came into power? Highlight it, you know. So these are all things which we can do. Us on Gainako, media solidarity on human rights violations and press freedom is something that we don't joke about. You would have seen, we published this story about the Gambia Press Union condemning the assault on your boss and Malik B. Cham. So for us, it's important. We must write about these stories. And the only way those who are violating journalists' rights will stop is when they know that if I touch a journalist, all of them will make my life very difficult. They will expose me, yeah? Then if I'm exposed, I could face jail time. You know, it could be a court issue. I could be arrested and made to face the full wrath of the law. And until we do that, we will not have the environment that we want so that we can be able to more freely do our job. And then press freedom will actually improve. So that is the last slide that I have. And I'm happy to take any questions. I hope I've done it justice.
Thank you very much. Questions? Mr. Ma?
Okay, I mean, thank you so very much, Mr. Flex, for taking us around these classes. I'm going back to, Gorius Mob case. you made mention of the guy was compensated, but I mean, how was Gorjin Bob? Yes, I mean, what happened to Gorjin Bob after the guy was compensated? We know that the guy was compensated, but we don't know what happened to Gorjin Bob after the case.
Very good question. That's also part of following the story. So actually, after the investigation came out, NHRC recommended that Gorgimbub must be disciplined. And immediately he was disciplined in that he was removed from anti-crime unit and then sent up country, yeah, to Farafenni. Yeah. Now that's where you now as a journalist have to follow the issue. Some of us raise concerns. So wait, you are saying he's not good enough to serve here in the Greater Banjul area anti-crime unit and head here, but he is good enough to go to Farafenni and continue doing what he is doing there? Fine. That was for us the advocates now. That was what we were arguing. Saying, what message are you sending? Eventually, we got to find out, so you investigate the issue, put it on the NHRC. NHRC, this is what you were saying. Yeah? This is what you were arguing, NHRC, that this gentleman has to be disciplined. But we have seen that they have taken him to Farafenni. So now you leave NHRC to push them. You have to know who can affect the issue. So eventually, just to cut it short, to answer your question, Gorgimbub did come back because I saw him myself driving at anti-crime. As an investigator, you need to be following. I saw him with his anti-crime unit card. That was after Farafenni. And I know that Gorgimbub received treatment abroad. He was seriously sick. He received treatment abroad. But eventually, his whole situation was overshadowed because the TRRC recommendations came out and it also indicted Gorgimbub, even on the April 10, 2000. So eventually, they said he has been relieved. This is what they say. Yeah? But it's up to us now. If we see him, like me, I am watching. If I see him there at anti-crime unit, I will report it. But the situation that they are saying that they have relieved him of his duty. Yeah, that's what they're saying. Any more questions? Please feel free. Or else I'll feel like I'm so boring. You have a question?
I mean, now, through your investigations, now, if someone doesn't have any contact with you, especially those at the provinces, they don't have any contact with you, the journalist, or any other lawyer, but their rights are violated by the states. So how do you come across those ones?
Yes, we are sort of limited by capacity. Capacity as in manpower. Obviously, we have people here. In fact, having a vehicle is a must to do this kind of work. Because or else the time that the delay in between even getting $10 for them see situation, the environment, I'm talking about within the Greater Banjul, sir, let alone up country. So what I've done, I've had sometimes the challenge first of all is getting them reporting the issue to you. Yeah, they might not even be aware of you. Yeah, so they might not even report it because some of them don't have internet, don't have access. So, but if you are working with civil society organizations and you have gone there, so that's how some of them get to know me. Yeah, because also I'm on TV, like I'm on different TV shows, I'm on Gis, I'm on different shows and I'm on radio often. So a lot of people get to know me through that, but still they may not even have my contact. But when I go out in the town, in the rural areas, especially with civil society organizations, that's how you build your contact with them. That's very important. That's why civil society organizations are very important, if they can go with you. So with that, people will get to know your contact. That's the first point. So if they don't get your contact, they cannot report and there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah? But sometimes, even if they get your report, now your contact, they report it to you. Now what can you actually do about it? You see, sometimes that's also the other problem. NHRC, though, they have regional offices in the regions. When I get issues in the regions, I usually refer them to NHRC. Yeah, because of I cannot verify often. And sometimes when I know of one case of a lady who was being forced into early marriage, in fact, she eventually went into early marriage because of the pressure was so hard on her, and sometimes it's so difficult. It's not clear cut, you understand? So, because the lady was at first, wanting to resist, but there was an organization, another human rights organization that I knew there. So that human rights organization was spearheading her concerns and trying to assist her. And then the NHRC also was involved. But unfortunately, that one didn't get anywhere. The lady was eventually pressurized from her family members. And she eventually returned. And the case was made a foolish case. So, but we are not giving up. We are not giving up. You need to know the regionals, representatives of the NHRC. Hopefully, Gainaka will get to the stage where we will also have regional one day. Then we'll be able to do a lot more because of clearly, if, for example, and we know it is happening, they are violating others in the rural Gambia, just like this gentleman. But we are limited to.
Because the reason I raised this thing is because after this thing, the lockdown, there was an incident that happened in Hamaba. This drug squad, they seriously injured one man there. So that case still now, and that one, it went to the extent that that man small he will die. So still now there's nothing. Now thank God now he come over right now, but there's nothing, no compensation, nothing. And because there was nothing like he had backup people that will help him to this thing, NHRC, National Human Rights Commission, or other institutions to help him. It's just that the state, the police, they were coming, but they cover up this thing. They don't want it to go out. So that's the reason. So are you guys doing any effort to remove that barrier between you and those ones?
Yes, that's a very important question. And like I say, hopefully, right now, I'm going to be honest to you. We don't have people on the ground over there. Even covering the greater Banjul area is not that easy as we speak. It takes a lot of our resources. It takes a lot of, and you don't get paid for these things. So that's why those who have paid for it, like the NHRC, you make sure that they get to work. If that guy's story was not reported to the NHRC, he most likely will never ever get compensation.
So is there anything like the police have to report it to NHRC?
No, you the journalist who knows better, who is aware of the NHRC, you are the one who should tell the victim that this is the NHRC's number, call them. That's your responsibility. Yeah? Like I said, that's where your responsibility stops. Yeah? The moment you start now taking the pen to write the complaint for the victim, you are going beyond an advocacy. That's being a human being. Yeah? For example, and there's nothing wrong with it, like I said, but you have a choice. Like I have a choice to make that decision. The person may not be able to even speak English or read and write in English. So you see that challenge now, sometimes that's the reason why you must step in. Some of them, they can read and write, but they cannot read, and if you read what they have written, you cannot even make head and sense out of it. You understand? So that's where we can come in, to help these people. But the reality is, Gambian media, I think the only media in this country which has this region is probably GRTS. I don't know if QTV has regions. Yeah, some of the radios, you see. So if you look at it, that's Gambian media is limited with our capacity. I'm not going to claim to have solutions to answer problems across the regions. And I want to believe that in those places because they know they don't have people like us in the regions. They are more emboldened to do whatever they want to do. You understand? So there are probably even more cases like this in the rural Gambia than we are having here. So certainly our vision is we would get to the point where we have regional sections. We can work and actually support anybody that is violated. But we are not the NHRC. Yes. So we also have to recognize where we stop. But that doesn't mean that you cannot report the case, put NHRC on the spot, and follow NHRC until they come out with a compensation. And I can confidently say, I believe if I did not do that job, we would not get to the end here. But it's not an easy job. It's a thankless job. It's a payless job. It's a job where you invest your own money, oftentimes. Yeah.
If a child get lost and the parents contact you to share the information, but then they don't want the image to be shown, now you as a journalist, what should you do?
Yes. There are some things you can do. If you are not allowed to show the child's picture, there are two things. One, if they will allow you to show a blurred picture, get permission for that. One. If they allow you to show a blurred picture, you could blur the child's face, yeah? So nobody will know the child's face, but they can see what the child is wearing or how the child looks at least, right? Because the picture might not be of the child that day, what they were wearing. But what is important though, what was the child wearing that day? How old is the child? So that's how you describe the child, so that somebody would be able to. What is important is if somebody is going to find that child, you are writing that story so somebody would find the child and return them, either to the police or to the parents, right? So you need to give the public the information that will help them to do that. Was the child wearing a black or white? What was the child like? What is their characteristic? What is their behavior? If you can describe some of those things, you can put it there. If you can get permission for the blurry face, a blurred face of the child to be put out there, then you can go ahead with that. Yes, that's what. If it was me, even if I can't have a picture, a blurred picture, I will get them to describe what the child was wearing, and I will publish it. How tall was the child? What's the complexion of the child? And those kind of things. What were they wearing? So that people will be able to, what languages can the child speak? You know, so that when people see all those things, they will know this is definitely the child. Yeah.
In victim reporting, is it accepted you as the journalist to witness a story and report on it without consulting the assault or with any police officers?
Yes, if you see a violation that is occurring, sometimes you could be in passing. You could be in a vehicle, for example, and you are moving, yeah, and you see a violation happening. Especially if you can catch it on camera and have pictures, yeah, then that means you have backup and evidence, yeah. Oftentimes, before you report, one of the first things you want to see is what evidence do I have? If you were not there, corroborative evidence is your best friend. Like I said, because of you were not there. So you are only having perspective from one person. They might not even be the person that was violated, you see. But you have every right to report the story if you have evidence. What I will not advise you to do is report a story you don't have any evidence on. then you are leaving yourself open. One, your integrity can be smeared. Yeah? So if you were not quick enough to take a picture, huh, and you don't have any evidence, why would you report the story? You could report it, but then, because some things happen, and because of they happen, say it happened in Westfield, something happened there, that alone, normally a lot of people are going to be aware of it, regardless. You report it or not. So if you report that, a lot of people will also be aware of it. So sometimes that alone, you can report it. I don't know if you see where I'm coming from. Yeah? So there's a disturbance here. And there's reason sometimes why you are reporting it. Perhaps it's also to alert others to be careful. Avoid this particular area. People are being violated their rights. Say April 10, 11, when it was happening. Say if another one was happening here. They are violating people's rights here. You are too scared to take a picture. You can still report, say, this and this is happening. We've observed so and so happening. So avoid so and so place. But without evidence, mostly, that's my rule of thumb. If I don't have any evidence, I will not report it.
Okay, so my question is regarding what you said about being a journalist and an activist. Like there's a line there. And then the issue you said here too in this case where no news story is worth your life. Okay, there's this scenario or this case, I don't know if you have heard of it before. He's a photojournalist from South Africa, and he was a war journalist. He take like pictures of wars taking place. So there was this particular child that was hungry, the effects of war. The child was hungry and was about to die. He was on the verge of dying and was actually going to the place where food was normally served. So for this journalist, he was a white man actually, and the child was black. So he took a picture of the child because there was a vulture waiting for the child to die so that he can feed on the child. So in the case, he took the picture and then he left. Because now, there's two things. He did his job. One, that is as a journalist, he is supposed to cover the case, which he did. But then as a human, was he supposed to leave the child there to die?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting, I have that same, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's a very interesting observation. Yeah, that's a very interesting observation. I even actually one time wrote a post about it, but somebody got in touch with me to tell me that that might not actually be a true story. Yeah, that might actually be false news. Yeah, but the most important thing is what is the lessons? The lessons, the moral lessons that we should take from that. Also, yeah.
Also reported that because after taking that picture,
Yes.
it tells like million stories. That single picture tells a lot of stories. And after he won an award for taking, I think the best. He won an award for taking that shot, but after 1 week he committed suicide because there was someone who asked what happened to the child. So there were some positive feedbacks, but there were some negative feedbacks too, because people were saying like he should have tried to save the child, but also he was doing his job. So what do you do in a case like that? What's your perception?
I think the person even referred to him as the second vulture.
Yes, he was referred to as a vulture. Yes, so it's not just there were two vultures there.
Yeah, so
There was a real vulture.
And the one behind
That was, yeah, and the guy behind the camera they called a vulture. But apparently, that story is not entirely true. Yeah, he did not kill himself because of that. Apparently, but for me, forget about what was true or not. The issue there for me, though, what are the lessons we should learn from this? And if we were to be faced with such a scenario, how should we behave as journalists and as human beings, right? That's for me sometimes where I say, I will drop me. If it's me, I think most of you know what I will do. I will drop my pen, and save the life, and then worry about my story later. Yeah? And I want to believe many of you would do this. Yeah. So definitely your conscience is so important. At night you go to sleep. How will you sleep? You understand? If you have done something like that. So, but we should be careful of some of these news. Some of them might not be true. You know what happened? I fell victim of this. I shared that story. And that was when somebody highlighted to me that might not actually be the reality of what happened. Yes, but there are lots of lessons there. Sometimes something doesn't even have to be true, but the lessons that we learn from it are the most important lessons. It's the most important thing, you know, and I would urge all of you to drop your pen and be a human first, as long as your life is not going to be at risk. You understand? Huh? Don't put yourself in a situation where your life is at risk, you know. Yeah, I think the most important thing, do the right thing that your conscience will be able to live with. All right? And we have a responsibility to the next generation. White, black, whatever race they are. Not just the black children, you know, white, wherever, whatever color they are our responsibility for us to make sure that we safeguard their future, you know. So it would be very inhumane to leave such a child in that scenario.
But if you choose not to save a child, it is also not a crime because you're doing your job. I know as a human, you're supposed to save a child, but then as your job, people shouldn't hold it against people that choose to actually do the photo instead of saving the child.
Well, you can actually go to the code of conduct and say that they didn't do the right thing as a journalist. You know why? Minimize harm. Does that comply with minimizing harm? Does it comply with use heightened sensitivity? Yeah, of course, this is talking about sources, right? But still, you have to show compassion. Show compassion. This is what our code of conduct 13 is saying. Yeah? Promote and protect public health and safety. That's the number one point. In your code of conduct, this is the number one point. Public interest and social responsibility. Do you think such a journalist would have doing that? Would that be promoting and protecting public health and safety? No. You failed. You failed. That's why the activism has to be based on principles. Your activism, your advocacy, is not Yama self-advocacy. Oh, ki mama saf suma harit la fogma tahawal ko. That is not activism. That is following your own selfish interests. You understand? Yeah? So, advocacy, and, you know, there is a fine line which it falls in. Huh? But people like me, we know how to blur the lines a little bit, right? But if you fully understand what it means by to be a journalist, and if you fully understand your code of conduct, what your code of conduct is doing, yeah, is telling you to do, how it is demanding that you have to behave. If you see a woman, they are violating her rights, your code of conduct is telling you you must do something about it. You must expose that violation. You see? Even a child, you must expose the violation, you must do what you can to promote and protect their health and safety. So, it's kind of like, we can be here debating about it. Huh? Somebody from the old school, from the old school, that's why at the beginning I set the tone. The old school guys believe that you should just write your story, newspaper. Me, new school thought. We believe that, look, yes, we have to write a story, but if we continue writing story and nothing is coming out of our story, we might as well don't write the story. People lose, the public themselves will lose interest. Because they're not, and they ask you, sometimes don't look at our victims. Yang ma laaj pour ma ñew ma wax nga binda li lu say dara du ci gëna. Fi len wax hangalan la. In fact, sometimes we are re-traumatizing them. And then there is nothing that is going to be coming out of it. You see, so it's kind of like, you know, for me, I don't say anyone is wrong. That's the thing. I don't believe that the old school guy is wrong. is a choice. You can choose to be the old school guy. That's totally fine. And there's, for me, although morally, I don't think that is correct. Yeah? Or you can choose to be in the new school. Yeah? Where we believe that something has to come out of our stories. We are not writing stories for people to keep it in a book. You denca ko fofu nonu ngel souf ak dust di fa ñew. So our code of conduct really daf ñu dey guide a lot. Yeah, to know what we have to do.
Okay, you're the last one. Babu's guess is here.
We understand even at the family level, some family members' rights most of the time were trampled, but then they feel bad to speak about it because they want to maintain the integrity of the family. So in cases like that, you as a journalist or an advocacy, you have a clue and a very, very firm evidence with regards to that case. Are you obliged to go and report it to the National Human Rights, stuff like that?
Definitely. Definitely. SGBV stories, human rights violations within the family, domestic problems. You should. With those things, I normally report it to the NHRC. Yeah? And then, not only that, follow it. Follow the story. The more some of those family members, they know that, hey, you see legi fum nekani romba na sun lohode. Sometimes that's what it takes. If not, we'll continue having these stories underreported. Yeah? And the main reason why it is underreported, sutura. Bul yaha family bi sen sun hanga. Kon naka la ñu nit ci di gis ay yoy nonu. And Gambia is only 2 million. So ñun ñepp xamante. Yeah, I am 100% sure I'm a relative to 3 or 4 of you here, and you don't even know. You see, so, but I'm not saying go and report the story straight away. Yeah, but make sure you do the necessary groundwork, which is to refer them to the NHRC, keep your evidences, put something together, start drafting your story. Yeah. And try to see if you can publish it. Yeah, try to see if you can publish it. It's not going to be easy. Don't rush to publish it. But sometimes police might even be able to, because if the police start investigating, PRO, you might be able to get something from there. Yeah, which can be added onto your story. Yeah, because you've already got from some of the victims' perspective or some of the family members who might be willing to talk. Yeah, you take that bank, start writing your story. Yeah, and if you have put NHRC in point, police will come and investigate. When police investigate, they are PRO. Yeah, you can engage them. And if you have that, plus the other one, you have a thorough story that can be published. Definitely. And it will act as a deterrent to others who will see it. So I believe if you have the evidence, remember what I said, as long as you don't have evidence, don't publish. For me, this is just me. Yeah? If I don't have evidence, I'm not publishing. But if you have evidence, yeah, especially pictures of the person's violation, blur their face, I think you need to do something about it. Because that or else, when will those things stop in this country? If we, the journalists, don't report about it. We don't report about it. We don't tell NHRC. The police doesn't do anything about it.
And this is last. Don't you think like this code of conduct is important for journalists to know? Because, it is guiding journalists. But right now, I can say not all journalists here, are having the code of conduct. Don't you think it's the responsibility of also of the institution to actually go to DPU, get this code of conduct, try to give it to each and everyone in this office to also read and understand the code of conduct for in case of any incident outside.
That's why he said he will send it up on everyone.
Exactly. Spot on. So
But we still have the code of conduct here. It's not been read by you people.
Yeah.
It has always been here for the longest. We have the old one, we have
Was
the
it
new one.
informed in the office? Because
It has been, I think.
I
Several times.
Mr. Yu once said.
Yes, the code of conduct is
The code of
is
conduct
here.
was even here
Yeah.
before we checked the studio.
Yeah.
Now we transfer it.
I think
I was
it's
not aware of it.
Mungsi books, for
One
some
year,
of
Yes.
yes.
but I will not place the blame squarely on any media institution. But in my media institution, that's one of the first things I give to journalists that come and work with me. Yeah, I tell them about the code of conduct. I share it with them. I try to get a hard copy and give it to them, because GPU, you can get it from them. So that's very important. But also besides that, there's nothing wrong with even your union, GPU, and this is something that I've been engaging them, hopefully they will, to do some series of videos explaining this GPU code of conduct. Yeah, so that if you go on the GPU page or on the GPU YouTube or on the GPU Facebook or whatever, you can see 4 or 5 videos, 30 minutes or 5 minutes, that are on all the different sections. And I think that will be good. But there are 2 things that need to happen. GPU has to promote it. Excuse me. Your media house that you're working with also needs to promote it. And you, the third thing is finally you, the journalist who wants to be a professional. You have to be driven. I want to be a professional. Professional that you don't know your code of conduct, then when you go, then you will not be able to defend yourself. Yeah. So sometimes for me, you all also have a responsibility to know it so that you can defend yourself. Yes.
Thank you very much, Flex. I think this is a very fruitful one. Looking at the way you guys were engaging and paying attention to what Flex is saying. So we are saying thank you very much for taking your time through your busy schedule, of course, to come here to actually know us, to know some of the things that are on the code of conduct, which is important. As you say, it should be a guided principle for every journalist if you want to work professionally. And of course, to report on issues of victims, which I think that it is really important. At times you will see a certain journalist will, write a story, but then at the end of the images attached to the story, it's disturbing at times. Even just yesterday, I saw one of our colleagues, Mariama Dem and Landing, commented on VM status. At least you blur their faces, So these are people that I think the woman, the lady's husband has been lost for a very long time. She was searching for her husband for 10 years, and she found out that the guy is mentally not okay, and he posted a whole video, a whole picture of that without blurring their face, which is disturbing. As a journalist, you are being taught to be, use your ethical skills in terms of reporting on such issues. So thank you very much for coming, and I hope you guys will take good use of whatever it's been taught today, and it's going to be a guiding principle for all your professional work. I assume now you guys are becoming professional. So, yes, so that is it. And so if you have any vote of thanks from any of you.
Can I say something? That is Flex Dan. He's a very good brother of mine. Sometimes I'm having his number. I would text him, engage him. He's willing to help you in whatever you wanted to do with regards to this journalism. I can tell you that he's not only doing this journalism because of money. Yes, he's doing it for the sake of sacrifice. And at the National Assembly also, he is publishing newsletter on parliamentary, on the National Assembly. So those ones are also editions per editions. So you can always search that, download it, and then if you read that one, you will know whatever happened at the National Assembly, whatever happens there. Sometimes my source, I'll go there and download that one and try to learn a lot and know whatever has transpired at the National Assembly for the past term, so that I will know it and then follow up with the other one and connect it. So he is a very good brother. So you all can connect with him. You can take his number. If you have issues, you can follow up with him to, keep on guiding you. So if he can guide us, some of us, so why not you all? So thank you very much, Flex, for dedicating this time to come and help us here. Thank you.
So you can take a picture. That's my details in case any of you. That's my WhatsApp. That's my WhatsApp number.
Parliamentary reporting.
If you want to see, get in touch. So my contact is.
And you guys tell the ones for the
No, if they're busy, so go later for message.
Yeah, just send him a message.
You can call. If you call me, you don't get me. Just send me a message, and I always call back.
I was waiting for this semester right here.
My xaritu sàpp dégg ndaat saay soo déggee dexim si pasi si man la dee jógee.
It's time for semester avenue. Let's have time. Let's have fun.
Gambia talent. Hello, Serigne Japa Chole in the Gambia. Bu ma doon ñëwee fii jaar na more than 5 different airports yi waaye amul airport boo xam ne laaj nañ ma fay xaalis. lu ma si gën a naxari ma ñëw suma own dëkk fu ma juddoo fu ma yaroo fu ma liggéeyee may fay xaalis loolu jaadut.
Alright, naka woon sa holiday?
It was alright. It's fine. I enjoy it.
seen dëkk baa ngi naas na bu affaire yi naka la sula ngelaw bi mu ngi xalaat fuuf ak yooyu noonu. foo naa ne c'est perfect time ak yooyu.
dama just ñëw rek dama ñëw ma holiday dama dellu si.
I left here since 2015. So maa ngi soo a ñëw ni.
Ban lekk nga gën a nama?
Domoda.
Man, durang. Wow.
You like it with loxo or with kudu?
I with hand.
With hand?
Yeah.
Sama saan hand.
maa nekk borom boos.
Ban boos?
maa nekk Serigne Japa Chole borom maa de meye boos.
ko xoolul ma ne yow ne gisoo dara gis nga fii ku fi ñëw rek xam ne àgg nga ci